I got the chat working instead of a Q&A. Okay. Welcome everyone to our militarized equipment ad hoc, September 21st. We're going to get started with just a little bit of scheduling and talk about what we have on for today. What we have planned for today is to finish up for our commission meeting tomorrow, robots and pole cameras, flashbangs, and have a substantive discussion about LRAD. We do also have the the mobile command vehicle policy and impact report. Those materials will be at the police commission meeting, have been sent, but may not be prepared for approval for tomorrow, and actually need not be necessarily approved because it is not under the local ordinance and could wait until the October 13th meeting. First, I want to talk a little bit about scheduling. For moving forward, the next commission meeting is October 13th. We have been meeting twice weekly. I think, and so far we've gotten seven policies passed. Is that right? I think we have three that are likely going to be ready for approval tomorrow, depending on what we finish up today: robots, flashbangs, and LRAD. And then we will have remaining mobile command vehicles and breaching for October 13th, or anything that we do not finish on the 22nd. I think that means that we can take the foot off the gas pedal for a little bit, and I would suggest going to only Mondays to meeting, but staying on the weekly schedule. That would mean we would meet on the 26th, the 3rd, and the 10th in preparation for the October 13th meeting. And hopefully after that, then we will be done. Thoughts?
Sounds good.
That sounds good. Hey, Angela, your camera's on, just so you know. All right, good.
And okay. Any objections? That gives us 6 hours of meeting time to finish up what we have left across 3 weeks.
And that's mobile command, breaching. Is there anything else new besides those two?
I don't believe so. I'll let the department confirm. And we do not need to finish LRAD tomorrow, even though it is on the commission meeting for tomorrow.
Yeah. I definitely would be very interested in meeting fewer than twice a week. My only question is what days we should expect to see the documents that we haven't seen, and if the Monday only schedule would support that. And so I think that's breaching and mobile command that we would need to see.
Yeah, so mobile command, I think, unless I inadvertently left you off, Jennifer, I sent out, was that earlier today?
I have not seen it, but I don't know if
Sent
that's
it
no or not.
yesterday evening, 7:37.
Okay.
If you could send it again to me, that would be great. I have not seen it, but I don't know if that's my side.
Absolutely, sending that to you right now. So yeah, the only thing is explosive breaching. So let's see, it is the 21st. If we meet again the 26th to cover anything that is that spills over from the 22nd, like Commissioner Shea said, I think we are, likely anticipating maybe not LRAD, maybe not mobile command post, so we can speak about some of those things. Anything else that unexpected from the meeting to cover that. that it is hopeful that we'll have the explosive breaching documents by then, but I do have to talk to staff a little bit. However, definitely by the 3rd, by October 3rd, we should have those for drafts, so we should be all set.
And that will give us the 3rd. I'm a little, I would hope that we could try to get those documents by the 30th so that we can go over them and prepare for the 3rd, but also recognizing that we could get work done on the 10th, finalize them and send to commission for Brown Act purposes by that Monday.
Yeah.
But it sounds like we would have all documents by no later than the 3rd.
Sure. So actually, I think Lieutenant Febble, you're on the call. What's how does that sound for the impact report and the explosive breaching?
Well, I got the explosive breaching preliminary done for your review, and then the impact report, I think I can base it on top of the templates that you've provided and working with Cardona. I think we could squeeze that in. Due date the 3rd.
The 30th. So that's a weekend, a couple of days from today.
Yeah, I'll do the best I can, sir.
Great, thank you. I think we
Perhaps if you, whenever you get the review on the policy done, you could just send that in to start off with.
Yeah, so that's that should be within the next couple of days. We could get that.
Does that, go ahead.
Can we check in on the 26th and confirm that we are on track? So that way, if we absolutely have to, we can move our schedule around.
I think that's a smart idea.
Is there flexibility for us to go beyond the 10th? And I'm posing that mostly towards the department.
Sorry, so that's the 10th of October.
Right. And so what I'm wondering is if we aren't able to discuss it on both the 3rd and the 10th, is there flexibility to take it to the next police commission that's after October 13th?
There is, yes. There, yeah. So in terms of our scheduling flexibility, yes, we have enough personnel to do that. And then for the in terms of use frequency, obviously the sooner the better. We never know when it is there's an incident that's going to happen. Based on past incidents, though, I feel pretty good. But it's just like, I guess it's just like having going a few weeks without insurance on your car, right? You hope you never need to use it, but then it's always the time when you don't have it. So we will definitely do our best to make that not happen, but we are flexible and can extend if we need to, in maybe.
180 days from May 1st is 100, approximately October 27th. And that's the that's from AB 481, that law enforcement agency needs to start no later than May 1st to start a 180-day submission period for use policies.
Jesse, I think that might not be entirely correct. I think it's 180 days from when the department submits the policy. And so if that day was not May 1st, then it's 180 days from whatever day that was. I don't know when the department submitted their policy, though.
That would have probably, you're talking about K7 when it was submitted to commission. I think it was 120 days from maybe somewhere in whatever our deadline is for the local ordinance.
Yeah, let's see. So yeah, in terms of the 180, yeah, and 70, 71, so the AB 41, it is that I think, yeah, that no later than May 1st, we commence the governing body approval process. And then if the governing body does not approve the continuing use of military equipment within 180 days of submission of the proposed military equipment use policy, then we shall cease the use of that military equipment. So yeah, it is from the submission, and we'd have to check on the date there.
I think it was approximately June. It's 120 days from the end of October.
But yeah, we have been operating, at least for the AB 41, on the premise that it would be 180 days from May 1st, because it doesn't seem like you can extend the date by just submitting late. So that would be October 28th. I guess would be the day we'd stop using things. 27th would be 180 days.
This might be a check-in with the city attorney question. I've seen a couple of different jurisdictions interpret it slightly differently.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, frankly, in terms of the way it's worded, missing the May 1st deadline may straight up mean not being able to use it. We are operating sort of with all deliberate pace. And if the department wants to, you know, keep us within wants to make sure we stay within deadlines, I think the earliest we can get it done is October 13th. So if we want to keep it that way, then we don't have as much flexibility and need to get it done by the 13th.
All right. So yeah, in terms of the urgency of the situation, I think we've got it, and it sounds like it is on its way. Definitely the policy draft should be within the next, hopefully 24 hours after we review it here, and then the impact report shortly thereafter.
Okay. So we have the proposal to take out Wednesdays. We will reevaluate on Monday, but that is hopefully where we get to. All right, why don't we start off with flashbangs? Sorry, DQ, you're never first. I know.
I was just gonna say that.
And just for everyone's awareness, we do have Lieutenant Fleming. He's the second, not as handsome Jeffrey Thomas listed there.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to go over the changes to the document. Everybody was emailed out last couple of days. I do appreciate everybody's help in this, especially Jennifer's and Jesse's help, especially some of the questions that came up were very helpful in putting together this document. As we go through, I'm going to start at the top. We did get an index number. It's going to be 3P.05. That's going to be an index number for this trading bulletin. I did change the effective date, and they'll probably change again once it gets approved. As we go down, the purpose, the Oakland Police Department is committed to safeguarding the community and preserving life. The department has implemented measures and policies to ensure none are violated. Regardless of deployment, the NFDDs will be utilized in according with OPD core values and our mission. As we go down to training, I did make it more specific that it's current SWAT members. So you have to go to the school and be a current SWAT member to be able to use these. I did change on top of page 2. It's going to be the tactical commander and or incident commander must provide prior authorization of transporting the flashbangs for any tactical team planned or unplanned operations. And then only trained Oakland Police Department current SWAT team members are authorized to transport and or use them. Any questions as we keep on going down? Those were the kind of the easy ones. Okay, as we go to deployment, It's going to be members should gather as much intelligence as possible to include the presence of young children or elderly, flammable material, potential drug lab, and other potential hazards prior to the possibility of using the flashbangs. The existence of any of these factors may discourage the use of the NFDDs. And then we have the same, we have some deployment considerations in here. Devices shall only be deployed by trained SWAT team members. We keep on saying that throughout the policy, and who have completed necessary training. Members shall visually clear the area of people prior to deploying devices. Members shall visually clear the area of potential hazards, including fire hazards, prior to deploying the devices. Every effort should be made not to deploy the NFDDs near a person. And members should consider the size of the room prior to deploying due to the chance of the device striking a wall and changing directions. I know that there was go ahead, Jennifer.
Thanks. I've just got some really tiny things I'm hoping we can change quickly. For members shall visually clear, for those two, would confirm have the same meaning in this situation? And if so, could it be changed to members must visually confirm?
What do you mean, like change what to? I didn't get the first part.
Oh, can you change from members shall visually clear to members must visually confirm?
I'll open it up to other people, but I think it's, especially in a dynamic situation, I think we're just asking our officers or the people that are going to use it to make sure they're not throwing it at people and make sure they can visually clear. It's harder. It's almost an absolute that it must be clear before using it. Unless I'm wrong.
When you say clear, visually clear, that obviously has more meaning to you than it may to us, who are civilians. What do you mean by that?
I've never been on a SWAT operation inside the house, but for me, it's going into it, looking, make sure there's no people before I throw a flashbang.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so it is. I went through the tactical school and never deployed one in a dynamic entry situation. But yeah, it is that you look to the place where you are going to deploy the device. When we say clear, it's basically say, okay, there's no one in there. It's I think what you hear Lieutenant Thomason and I kind of have the same thing as confirm, especially when we talk about it in a later sort of accountability standpoint. It's like, I looked, I didn't see anyone, I put it there, right? Well, how could you confirm, right? Nothing. I guess we always have a fear of absolutes. But yes, it is looking to make sure there is no one there. And also there are no fire hazards, dry brush, a bunch of blankets or, flammable materials, gas cans, etc. And then exactly where you are going to put it. So as opposed to throwing this thing where it starts bouncing to places you don't know, it's almost basically that you place it. I'm kind of using like an underhanded, at best, soft toss, if not just roll right to the place where you're going to do it. I know Chief Allison also has some experience with these.
Yeah, I look at it from a sense of available time. So when you're looking at using a flashbang or even an entry in a high-risk situation, it takes time potentially to confirm. So when we do that clear, it's a quick look, make sure there's no flammable areas or persons in the immediate vicinity of the toss. But when you start looking around the room, you risk prolonged exposure. And if we're using them in armed, high-risk, active shooter type situations, it just exposes officers to threats for a longer period of time and creates exceptional risk. So that's why I think the clear is a little bit more of an immediate check versus a longer ID behind confirmation.
When it's a little bit odd to me, and I sort of get it. And let me see if I can ask these questions to clear it up for myself. It strikes me that using these devices is specifically their effect on people to distract them, to disorient them, so that members can safely enter an area. And while they're distracted, perhaps disable them or detain them in a safe manner. So the idea is they're used near people, but not necessarily. So is the idea that you don't want the NFDD to land right on the person's feet? You just, the area where it's gonna go is the area that you are confirming there is nothing?
Yes.
Correct.
Because yeah,
Any
you're correct.
other-
It is designed that basically the person is, yeah, disabled, startled by this, so that we are able to gain that slight advantage.
Could
And I thought this would be a easy word.
It's supposed to be easy.
I mean, I like the way that it's worded more so than the way I asked the question, because it strikes me that it would be a larger area than just where you're tossing the thing, right? You're looking where it's going and in the area surrounding, and you visually clear, meaning there are no people, no fire hazards, as opposed to just the immediate spot where the device is going.
And I think we also get down to the next the next page where prohibited use, where it's pretty clear that we're not to throw them at people.
I wonder if adding language that's informative rather than directive would be helpful. Like it was new information for me to learn that the goal is to place it in a room that has no people and nothing that can catch on fire. And having some way to convey that context into this section, not in language where you're like, is this supposed to be an instruction or is this an information? But just be clear that it's informative of this is the intent in and how deployments happen. And if you're open to that, Lieutenant, I'm happy to help to jump in and wordsmith with you after this meeting.
Yeah, it's just because we're talking about the deployment section, when they should, what they should do when deploying them. And then I just don't know where we put this section or how we change it, but I mean, we can talk afterwards.
Could I make a quick suggestion, which is, could someone say what the ideal deployment is?
Yeah, I mean, for one of these, you are talking about like kind of like the assistant chief said, a limited set of circumstances where there's a high risk, the entry or the device goes into a place where it is not going to directly impact that, any person there, or like anything right there on fire, but yeah, that people are distracted by it. They see it, the sound distracts them. That moment is when we then either enter the room or engage our plan, whatever that is, to affect what at this point is an extremely high risk situation, which is either arrest that person, rescue the hostages, stop the active shooter, or something like that. Yes, yeah, it's ideally it works.
And the ideal location is an area that doesn't have a fire hazard, doesn't have a person, but still is effective as a distraction device.
Yes, and still is, it's where they are looking. It doesn't really do much good if they are not looking at. So typically that is going to be, near that door or something like that. It's the same place where the officers are likely to be found if they enter or something like that.
Okay, any other questions or for this top part? I did add in, a couple words here. We did add in medical personnel, so members should consider staging OFD, and that's what it said before, Oakland Fire Department and medical personnel due to potential fire hazards. I probably left that out because I know with all our SWAT operations, we have medical at our staging area, but it is good to have it in policy. So move on.
Yeah.
Okay, I did add in a footnote down here, and that's for barricaded suspects. Right here, barricaded subject, and then the people could go refer to the train bolt to the 3P for what a barricade subject is. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I think 3P isn't yet public. Is it possible to just put the definition in that footnote right there?
That's a Joe Turner question.
Yes, yeah, we could put that definition in there.
Okay.
Cool. And I'm also looking at the situations where commander supervisor deems use necessary to safely resolve the incident. I'm wondering if anyone could briefly explain what situations outside of the listed situations might be that wouldn't fall under the listed ones.
I think it's not, I don't want to say catch-all, but there's going to be a situation that's not listed here that we're going to have to use these things. So I think that we don't want to just limit ourselves to just barricade subject, high risk, warrant situation. And this, obviously that covers a lot, like 99% of it, but there might be that one incident where we need an incident commander to make a decision.
Is there? On the back end, there are after action reports and reports to ATF for use and justification for use, right?
And it'll be in the annual report too. Yes.
And those, the situations where the incident commander might do that, those would typically fall under exigent circumstances.
Yes.
Are we good?
I have reservations about leaving such a broad case for authorized use. And would be really interested in seeing some clarification on what these situations are that are falling outside of the situations that are already listed.
Okay, let's come back to it. Let's keep on going on.
And maybe I can sorry, maybe I can just give you a little bit more about what I'm thinking about is City Council, AB 481 gives very specific instructions to governing bodies that they should only be approving policies if they believe that the policies are going to safeguard the public's welfare, safety, civil rights, and civil liberties. And when there's something that's so broad in the authorization, that makes me wonder whether City Council is going to be able to make that determination for whether the policy will safeguard all of those interests for the public.
Yeah, I think I am. I understand that concern, and also I'm a little bit wary, but I understand also the idea that we don't want to create a situation. Do you think, Jennifer, that especially with these being used relatively infrequently, and that this isn't is likely an infrequent use if it happens at all, that if we in this justification part say after that, that any of these situations will require that person to provide a report justifying exactly what, the scenario that prompted that, why their decision, and why it did not fall within any of the other justifications would at least go a long way towards, I know it doesn't preclude it on the front end, but give us information on the back end and ensure that it's documented.
Yeah, that would definitely make me more comfortable. Like you said, I would certainly prefer prevention over fixing afterwards, but at least will add a little bit of layer of accountability to this.
Okay. Yeah, because I do think, both Lieutenant Thompson and I are, saying, hey, we're not really sure, but we also want to, we don't want to create a situation where we've created a problem. But yeah, we want some robust accountability on the back end and for people to just not make decisions willy-nilly. So I hope that will kind of get us towards a happier medium.
Yeah, it's creative.
Sure.
I like it.
There is a portion in the post-deployment considerations about after action report. So we're likely adding a sentence there that where the flashbang is authorized by an incident commander or on-scene supervisor, that something report needs to get sent to somewhere, and et cetera.
Yeah, on some timeline.
Yep.
Okay. I think we're at prohibited use. So flash bang shall not be thrown or targeted at person unless the threshold for lethal force has been met by DGO K3. And basically that goes into that scenario brought up with the impact report and stuff. We don't want to throw these at people. And I think a lot of the stories I read online after Monday, that it was a lot of these flashbangs were hitting people and exploding right next to them. And that's what we don't want to do.
There was a line here in the last version about flashbangs not being thrown at moving vehicles.
Yes, there was. And I talked to Lieutenant Turner, and I didn't know it was part of one of our other policies. If he wants to explain it, but that's why.
Yeah. So I apologize. I didn't get a chance to look at that, and also talk to the tactical team. So I did ask that be removed for a few reasons. Well, one is that well, I understand kind of the idea. And so, for instance, that we would not authorize deployment and the team would not deploy, like for someone who is fleeing in a vehicle, very similar to how we can't use lethal force against people who are fleeing in vehicles, or even are using vehicles if we can get them out of the way. But we do use these on it is part of our maybe the way that we will handle like a hostage situation within a vehicle. They've happened rarely, but strangely enough, I have pulled someone out of the trunk who was tied up in a car, and so that could be something where that happens. Also, certain times where we have these high-risk takedowns, including the armored vehicle, there is the possibility that the vehicle, even though it is pinned in, right, that they are using the vehicle sort of back and forth. So that language was just too restrictive in terms of what the department or the team does for their takedowns.
And I added in the inquiry and complaint process down here at the bottom. And that's it for training bulletin on flashbangs. So I will add in the situation for reporting. I'll just say if this occurs, and they have to be able to write a report and justify the use, if that would be all right. And then Jennifer, I'll send it to you right after I'm done typing. I probably can do it right when DQ is going over his policies.
Awesome, thank you.
And then, do we want to talk about this part? The shall nots or shall only visually,
So maybe, so here's a suggestion. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Angela, go ahead.
No. Finish your thought, please.
Okay, so I wonder if we could preface that list of bullet points with something like the purpose of flashbangs is to distract and momentarily incapacitate anyone in the deployment vicinity. To do so, flashbangs must be deployed such that it does not burn a person or flammable material. To accomplish this, and then the bullet points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. So
I'm gonna quickly email that to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And then I'll definitely be emailing you tonight and then we can get back and forth so we can be ready for tomorrow. So, Angela, did you have a question?
I think Jennifer cleared it up, so
Cool.
I think we're good to go.
So any questions about the training bulletin before we move to the impact report?
While we still have this up, let me take a temperature check. In the state that the current training bulletin is in, with caveat that there will be a few additions between now and sometime tomorrow, around the two sections, the informational part about ideal deployments of flashbangs, as well as the after action report language for discretionary authorization. Are we comfortable where this policy, this training bulletin is for submission to the police commission?
I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm good, if that counts.
I assumed.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were asking only the commissioner, so I.
No,
stopped
I'm not.
asking from-
It's everyone at
I'm
this
so-
point.
I'm so sorry. Would you mind repeating the question?
Sure. Are we comfortable with submission to the police commission of the policy with the additions of the language that you and Lieutenant Thomason will be working on tonight?
I am comfortable with that.
Yes, same here.
It's good work. Let's turn to the impact report.
Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay, just going over the changes to the impact report. I changed the top part in this section to what the purpose of flashbangs are, to overstimulating the senses with sound and light. This will give law enforcement an advantage when conducting a law enforcement action. And then still moving down, I did add this section, just how much they cost per a use. The department recognizes that each use of a flashbang will cost $40 per use. And that's just, I mean, I'm sure there's other costs with personnel and stuff, but it's hard to estimate that. I did ask on estimated and ongoing costs. The cost is unknown for initial training and continuing training. The OPD SWAT team consists of 31 members who have all successfully completed the 120-hour school and will continue to receive training once a year. Or how about, yeah, any questions? The tactical team school is held once a year, depending on openings. I think it's been like that for the last few years. It's always in the beginning of the year. They'll try to hold a school for 3 weeks. I don't know if that, Joe, if you remember, if there's ever been a time where we've skipped a year.
Not that I recall.
There is continuing training costs, which is an 8-hour class once a year for the OPD SWAT team. So once a year, the OPD SWAT team receives update training. This is in addition to, they already receive training twice bi-monthly. And this is additionally just in for flashbangs. The costs are difficult to calculate because the use of flashbangs are infrequent. Since July 1st of 2022, since that's when we started keeping track as stats, OPD has not deployed any flashbang devices. And then I'm just saying that in the future, it'll be easier to estimate the cost based on deployments. Jennifer?
The twice monthly, that's just for being part of the SWAT team, but that twice monthly doesn't include any flashbang refreshers. Oh, sorry,
don't
twice monthly training.
So there is twice monthly training for the entry team that may include use of these depending on the scenarios that they're doing. So it's not necessarily per se that they're going over flashbangs, but the scenario might be, okay, today we're going to deal with what might happen in terms of an active shooter, or we're going to practice our hostage rescue, and that would necessarily have sort of as a part of it that. And I see DQ has his hand up as well.
Yeah, so I know they do once a year training mandatory. They do a PowerPoint presentation, and it's a 10-hour course, and you have to pass a written test and also a deployment test, and that's run by the tactical team. So you have subject matter experts, I believe it's Sergeant Cardona and somebody else, who give a PowerPoint presentation and then an in-field training. It's pretty much a refresher every year, and you have to pass the PowerPoint presentation. You have to pass the written test, kind of like what we do over here, where we have our Power DMS, where you have yearly training on J4. You have to pass, multiple choice question. You have a PowerPoint. You have to pass the Sims. So it's a mandatory training that they have.
Does it include flashbangs?
I believe so. I can confirm. Yes.
It does.
Should the bi-monthly entry team training get added with the caveat that it's not, it's not like the entire thing is dedicated to flashbangs?
Yeah, I can add that. Yes. Okay, I think going down, impact on affected persons. Is that fine?
Can you change that to
Affected.
yes, thank you.
And then I added in a bunch of stuff here. So anytime flashbangs are deployed, there is some possibility effects on a persons in the vicinity. These effects may range from long-term permanent effects, range emotional, physical injury to permanent disability or death.
Can some of the can the mitigation language get moved out of this section to the mitigation? Like, additionally, the department has safeguards. Like there's just a couple of
Safeguards right here.
Right, because if you go back to where you were earlier, there's a bunch of mitigations. And so those could get moved to the mitigation section. So right, that paragraph, the last sentence, additionally, the department has instituted safeguards around limiting the number of officers. So that I would see as a mitigation. And then having medical staged and fire department, that also looks like a mitigation. And that last paragraph, basically from where you are, from that highlight all the way down to the end, all look like mitigations to me.
Okay. Let me work with
Oh wait, sorry. The first sentence, this possibility exists and is remedied by improvements to policy and training at least once per month. That's also a mitigation.
Where's that at?
Right before where the highlight section starts, the sentence right before that.
Second sentence, third paragraph.
Yep, right where your mouse is right now.
Policy and training. Okay,
Thank you.
got it. Okay, and move that down to mitigation. Got it. And then, so safeguards, that's fine where this is. Okay. And then we did in addition to the Oakland Fire Department, we added in medical personnel. And I think all this other stuff was from the previous when we're talking about, so. Any concerns? I did change the subject to resident in the story line.
Sorry, you said to resident?
Yeah, where the resident was sleeping.
Oh, nice.
Instead
Thank
of
you.
the
Oh, yeah,
subject.
thanks for
Yeah.
looking that up.
So I can make those changes tonight and I'll get them to you tonight. So with the impact report, why DQ's talking. Do I have any, are there any questions or concerns with the impact report? Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thanks. I had in the alternatives section, I had a couple of questions and thoughts. One of the things I was thinking about is if the purpose of a flashbang is to distract and momentarily incapacitate, then one of the alternatives that you could name, which it sounds like the department already does, is when you have a high-risk warrant service that you look for alternative ways to serve that warrant that don't involve going into that. Like if it's a very busy house, lots of kids running around, then the department is already doing work to look
Like
for
like surrounding call outs, just announcing ourselves, don't stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
okay, I can
or
add that.
even, you know, instead of doing a surround and call out, if the person you're trying to serve the warrant to leaves the house every day at 4 p.m., then you catch that person on their way out the door. And then you don't have that that high risk situation. So that sounded like something that the department's already doing that could be named
is.
as an alternative.
Okay. I can do
then-
that.
Yeah, cool. I'm just trying to think of things that the department that, you know, you've shared a lot about what the department does, and I'm trying to think about ways that you can share that more with the public. And the let me check my notes. All right, there's a section where it talks about flashbangs are used to distract violent people or someone who's under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And I'm sorry, I did not write down that section. Let me see if I can find it.
I know that's in the training bulletin. I don't remember it being in.
Oh, all right. You know, we've already moved on from the training bulletin. I will drop it.
Well, why don't you email that to Lieutenant Thomason?
Yeah.
And then we'll see if it makes its way there.
All right, thanks.
The state of the impact report, how does this ad hoc feel about submission to the commission?
I think Lieutenant Thomason did a lot of work on this, and it's in a completely different place than it was where he started. So thank you and congrats on that. I feel good about it.
Yeah, I'm feeling good about it too.
Same here.
All right.
I'll
Thank you,
stop.
Lieutenant Thomason.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue to work as DQ's talking, and we'll get it done. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
How's your government computer today, DQ?
It's good. I'm actually at work and not at my house. So this one is the better of the government computers. So let's see. Which one you want to start with first?
Robots.
All right. Can you see that? Awesome. Let's see, scroll down. I think this is where we added the robot or pole camera may or may not always be ideal for deployment, and alternatives should always be considered prior to deployment. Going down here, Jennifer, thank you so much for a couple suggestions here. I think you kind of cleaned it up of what I was trying to say. So I appreciate it. But ESU operators, I kind of put in the I didn't want to get too much into specifics on time and everything and how long something might take for X and something might take for Y. So I just left it generic as far as just letting them know that it's going to require time to make ready robots and install any detachable tools. Furthermore, not all the attachments are ideal for each deployment, so that every commander kind of understands you don't need, just because you have that attachment doesn't mean you necessarily need the attachment, and it's case by case for deployment and situation that you're dealt with.
And this I put in, or made that suggestion because based on what we discussed on Monday, which was attempting or trying as much as possible to balance information versus discouraging.
Correct. I see what you said over here on Jessica, both you and Jesse and Jessica for the, or Jennifer, the I guess you have the footnote down here, so we can take out the actual definition. So I like that. That makes it cleaner. I thought about when we went to detachable tools, instead of listing this.
Sorry, DQ, do you mind going back one section to deployment authorization? Sorry, you just passed it, go down. Number 3, deployment authorization. I was reading it a little bit more closely and realized that it's so there's the authorized use and then there's the deployment authorization. And I'm wondering if the if that first line, letter A, if it needs to be more explicit that that authorization requires one of the authorized uses to be at play. Does that question make sense to someone else, or is anyone else able to explain what I'm trying to say better?
So are you trying to say basically that beyond that the use must be one of the authorized uses, that it needs the authorization of the incident commander, right?
No, sort of. What I'm saying is, if a incident commander who's a lieutenant or above says yes, you can deploy it, that the reason for that must be one of the ones above.
I think you're saying the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it just, let's see.
And I don't even know if we should be clarifying this, or if it would be helpful to clarify that.
I think the way to do it is to, after the word shall. So first line, paragraph A, after the word shall, add. Shall only be for the authorized uses above and require the authorization of the incident commander.
Thank you.
I think that if we're gonna add that here, it'll have to be consistent with the other policies, right?
Probably, yes. Good looking out.
So, okay. So I'll add this on most likely for the UAS then too, is what we're
Yep.
saying. All right, that's fine. That actually makes sense.
Erickson?
Yeah, just a quick question. Would the incident commander need to write in like a report on the authorized use, just like the previous one?
So anytime we do any type of deployment for UASs or robots, we do a militarization deployment log. So the incident commander or the tactical commander or the watch commander, whoever it is that authorizes it, will send out to command and to special operations section, just advising what militarized equipment was used, what it was for. Was anybody detained regarding race, age, gender, et cetera, et cetera.
So that section 5 might need to be moved to under section 3,
Are we going, section 5?
if it makes more logical sense. And welcome to Sig. Because we're talking about the deployment authorization and then the logs and then get into the detachable tools.
Okay, so we're saying section 5 and then go back one more time. Angela, sorry.
I was thinking just for readability sake and just the logical flow, if we're talking about the deployment authorization in section 3, then maybe to Erickson's point around the logging should probably go, that section might go better under the deployment authorization, and then we get into detachable tools.
Got it. So we're saying, just to make it cleaner, so everything flows, move here. Section 5 under deployment authorization. So it goes deployment authorization, then deployment logs.
Right.
Yep.
So 5 would become section 4, and then section 4 would become section 5.
DQ, can you do me a favor?
Mhm.
Can you go to your toolbar up above to review?
Mhm.
Click that. And then where it says track changes,
Mhm.
to the right of that, where it says all markup, can you select simple markup?
Like that?
Yes, please. Thank you. It just, there are a lot of lines and a lot of colors. It's,
I like that though, but okay.
I know, I can't track.
It shows us changes.
I know.
I think this was supposed to be B, correct?
Correct.
All right, maybe actually this will be. So this should be the subsection B, I think.
Do we need to add for section B whether it's an exigent and what that exigency was?
Just start there. I think- I'm sorry.
If you delete back and then one more time and then just hit enter, it should work. There you go.
Does
ahead.
the military equipment deployment notification process require justification or the statement of reasons, including whether or not it was via exigent circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we explain why we used it, we'd be explaining specifically on the notification if it met the criteria, whether it was an armed person, whether it was a barricaded suspect, et cetera, et cetera. If it wasn't because of that, then because it was exigent circumstances, and then it's logged in our deployment log as exigent circumstances. And I think I noted that we only had one, I believe this year or last year, for exigent circumstances.
In the reporting, will that include the number of exigent versus non-exigent situations?
I think it would notify if it was. I mean, if it wasn't non-exigent, then it wouldn't be exigent, I guess.
Sorry, I mean, when you do the annual report, will there be a note when you describe how the deployments were over the previous year? Will there be any notes on how many or which ones were exigent?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I did that for the impact report where I kind of noted what was and what wasn't. So what I did to make it simplistic was I basically copied authorized uses, and I have a drop-down menu for the deployments we have in our team spreadsheet. And I just did a running total of what it was. So I think I even get into a little bit detail what the exigent one is. when I make the annual report, just to explain, hey, why do we have one? Or why do we have?
Yeah.
You know,
In section, I think it's 6 now, robot administration system coordinator administrator. I think section 7, robot administration, or 6. It's under, after robot data, then robot administration.
Roman numeral 5.
Okay.
Yes, there. Number, whoops,
Oh, good.
number 2 under that. Can you add that, would you be open to adding something like, the number of exigent circumstances will be noted, or just something so that way, when the annual report comes out, we're able to basically, you know, if every single deployment is exigent, then it would be good for that to be able to be surfaced.
Are you gonna break down the reasons for the authorized use and how it falls under each policy in the annual report?
What I did for the privacy committee was I kind of did the similar table that I did for the impact report. And I broke it down for authorized uses is the amount of usage for each incident. And I broke it down per area. So I thought that was pretty decent. Am I not answering the question?
No, you are, and you have it. You just haven't gotten to that part of the graph. And I assume that you're gonna do the same for the annual report. I think the way you have it down is you've broken down the incident type. Perhaps that's all you need to put in this section, which is the annual report will include a breakdown of each incident type over the last year. One of those being exigent circumstance. You don't need to write that part, but you have it down as the incident type.
You want to go back up?
Yes, please.
Thanks for letting us jump you all around.
It's all good. It's all good. I know Jeff Thomason's laughing, so it's all good. Detachable tools here. I think we cleaned it up. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for that. Appreciate that. I went down. I thought after reading it too, I think we're good on this. The only thing that I put, and I suggested even myself here, was taking out the word successfully, and leaving it as advising that they are incapable of safely picking up or moving, and taking out the word "and successfully," because honestly, how do you define what success is, right? So I wanted to take that out after I put that in myself. I was going to take it out myself. Go ahead, Jennifer.
So I felt a little bit confused seeing this sentence a couple of times of the ESU operator shall not be criticized nor disciplined. And it just felt a little bit like it didn't belong in the policy. It's not that I disagree with it or anything. It's more, I was confused as to why it's in the policy.
No, great question. So if you look at our J4 policy, it's pretty much the same thing. Our J4 policy, being pursuits, says that if an officer feels that they are not feasible or capable or safely capable of pursuing and maintaining the pursuit, that he or she can cancel or ninth rate the pursuit themselves, and they can't be disciplined or criticized for canceling the pursuit. So basically, you're not putting an officer in a situation where that person feels that they're are at this level, but they're supposed to be performing at this level, if this makes sense. So if an officer feels that they're incapable of successfully deploying a robot or even a drone in a certain situation, which one maybe doesn't follow their standard operating procedures, one we haven't trained for, two, they know based on their training that they can't do this, that they're not being ordered by somebody who has no experience, such as incident commander or tactical commander, to do something. Some of the things we get is some of our officers sometimes feel kind of scared whether or not they're getting told by someone, by a superior, from a lieutenant, hey, I need you to do this. And what I get a lot from the officers is, man, I didn't think I can do it. I felt really scared. I was like, I didn't think I can do it. So I just did it because I got told I had to do it. But one of the things that I've been doing when I teach the commanders on drone training and robot training is that you have to ask the operator whether or not they can do it, because they know what they can and can't do. So that's why I wanted to include it in here, because it gives that reassurance to the officers and also gives that understanding to the lieutenants and to the watch commanders and the incident commander, whoever is authorizing it, that it's the operator who can tell you whether they feel capable of doing it or whether or not they have the training.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you talking about it helped me figure out why it felt kind of confusing to me, and it feels like it's language about officer performance and evaluation of officer performance. And so that just felt like it didn't really belong in terms of a policy that's centered around the weapon in question. And so I wonder if maybe language like this should be moved into more of a employee performance evaluation document, or if that's not the case, making it a little bit less this is about the performance, and changing it to be a little bit more about empowerment rather than about impunity.
Any thoughts from everybody else?
Yeah, unfortunately, I would agree from a leadership perspective that empowerment, as opposed to empower people to do the right thing, as opposed to reassuring them that they will not be punished for doing the right thing, would be the way to go. Unfortunately, a long history that predates any of us, even the assistant chief on the call, of the way that performance has been guided by the Oakland Police Department. I think we are in the midst of a change in our culture, in the way that we guide our officers to perform. But it has been just like law enforcement has been, towards community, sometimes very driven by punitive measures. I don't agree with that. I think many of us who are younger leaders do not agree with that method, but that is a concern. And so one of the reasons that we have things like this, and this is language basically from another policy, is to discourage the sort of worry that I felt like I had no choice, or I had to go with the flow, or people would have thought I was less of a, insert word, less of a man, less of a woman, less of a police officer if I raise safety concerns. So that is a concern, but also the idea that, yeah, my supervisor might knock me or something like that. So I agree with the sentiment, but it's a concern of the membership, and it is something that appears in other policies.
I think if it's for that particular reason, and changing the culture of what was perhaps a toxic supervision and management style, especially from commanders to officers, it makes sense. I do kind of get where Jennifer is coming from, the detachable tools section being a much informative and detailed and technical section. Perhaps we could add a paragraph to deployment authorization as a sub C for a catch-all that says the ESU operators shall not be criticized nor disciplined are encouraged to, perhaps, let me try it again. E-issue operators are encouraged to advise when they think it reasonable. Grammar, help me out if you can. To advise incident commanders that they are incapable of safely operating the robot in the requested manner.
And if you wanted to make it less personed, then it could be to advise incident commanders when the robot cannot be safely operated to accomplish the requested whatever. So that way it's more about the robot use rather than the operator.
Okay.
Perhaps you could email that to DQ if you remember it.
It's gone already, I'm sorry.
I usually rely on a court reporter. So that does mean deleting it from each one of these sections. You all can blame me for the way it looks now. I thought just thought I'd reorganize it some
DQ
and try to
search,
get right to the point.
search for the word criticize and it'll take you to the right spots.
Perfect. Let's see, moving on out, we'll work on that one right there for section C. Moving down.
So everyone gets a sense of what I did here when I was suggesting it to DQ. I thought that we try to limit repetition to get right to the options or the functions, and in each one to sort of delineate, I guess, where there should be additional, or that certain operations should only be at the direction of command staff and extreme caution. Those generally involving things that could involve harm to persons, picking up firearm explosives, using the pan disruptor, and puncturing. Yeah, puncture and the detachable glass or tire puncture.
Thank you for cleaning that up for me. And then I wanted to add section onto impact munitions and just loading the pan disruptor, how we practice, just making sure that you have two people doing it, making sure that it is a blank round and that we're safely doing it in regards to the same thing you would be doing with the beanbag round. So I reference training bulletin 3H.
Can a live round physically go in, and what happens if a live round goes in?
Yeah, physically a live round can go in, absolutely. And you'd be getting a shotgun round.
Should
Does the department plan on using a live round in the robot pan disruptor?
No. Is it possible if you have an active shooter in a place that we can't get to and he's fortified inside a house, and we're trying to get to a person? I think Deputy Chief, or I'm sorry, Assistant Chief Allison even brought up the situation where you had the Andros kind of solve the issue with the Houston PD active shooter who had killed several cops and then had fortified himself somehow, I think, up in a garage and was actively shooting and sniping people. And I think they put some C4.
what So what if a live round goes in, does that change things like I don't know, would it break the weapon? Or does it just effectively, like you said, turn it into a shotgun, a funny shotgun?
Great question. We've never tried that. I think it's only because we don't want to break it and we don't want to try it because we only have one pan disruptor that costs several $1,000s. So we've never tried it. I've never spoken to the manufacturers on it.
Could we add some prohibition against using the robot with live ammunition?
I don't want to add a prohibited use. I mean, I think that's something we have to revisit after the fact because what if we do need it for some situation later on? Again, do you have an active shooter doing what the person was in Houston last time? Do you have another incident where we can't get to, but safely the only thing that can get to it is a robot? So have we tried it? No, we haven't. Have I ever called the manufacturer on it? No, I haven't. SFPD has the same one. I know they've never done a live round either. So I think it's mainly for not destroying or ruining the pan disruptor that we have.
I think, sorry, Commissioner, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just thinking. I'm not there yet.
I think there is a lot of language about exigencies in this policy already. I think it would be worth it to either add the prohibition on a live round or to bring this to the commission for discussion.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable having a live round in the use of the robot. Yeah, just want to put it out there.
I mean, I think though, I mean, if we look at it, I mean, not to sound, what I think you have to obviously follow our K3 policy, our use of force policy. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so just so I think we're talking about the same thing. So Jennifer and those who support a prohibition, would that include some sort of exigency, you know, for that sort of 1 in a million situation like he's talking about? Because it is one of the things, yeah, we never say never, but at the same time, we definitely do not want this. Doesn't sound like anyone wants it, but we also don't want to say put ourselves in a situation where something, you know, I'm sure those officers that day in Texas did not anticipate that they were going to deliver a bomb using a robot.
I mean, is there a way we can add a higher threshold that it has to be approved by the incident commander and only used in a situation that is a lethal type situation, you know, risk of death kind of language, and making it as high, because I mean, that's the only time we really use it is in those high level threshold moments. We wouldn't put a round in there to, you know, negotiate with somebody. It would have to be very high level approval and only in those most dire situations.
Who's above the incident commander?
I'm sorry.
On average.
I'm
On
sorry.
average, who's above the incident commander in rank?
Well, the incident commander, I mean, from the ICF structure, I mean, could be the first senior or most qualified individual on the scene, but historically, particularly for tactical scenarios, you'll have a captain out there. At the highest, it could be a lieutenant if the captain is not readily available to respond, if it's a call out. But the incident commander has the ultimate authority. It can certainly, you could have a deputy chief or an assistant chief or a chief override, but they're not typically on the scene. And a lot of the incident commander decisions are made right there on the scene. So there could be a gap of information if that decision is displaced outside the location.
Could it be as low as a sergeant?
It could be, but I don't anticipate from a robot perspective that the scene will be run by a sergeant, because if we're utilizing the robot, we're activating a call out and the team is coming out as a cohesive element, which includes a lieutenant. So I wouldn't anticipate a sergeant running the scene in that regard.
Jennifer?
How accurate would a live round be?
If we're utilizing, are you asking how accurate would it be when you utilizing this?
Right, if you put a live round into the pan disruptor and then fire it, how accurate would it be?
So one of the things we discovered during our training when we were using the pan disruptor only during training is that we have to be, I believe, it is 18 inches from the target, and don't quote me, I'm gonna have to go back and look, 18 inches from the target, deliver the strike center mass at whatever you're trying to hit with the, you have a laser pointer. So one of the things we discovered was if you grab blinds, like the actual blinds you have from your window, I believe they're 18 inches or they're 24 inches. If you cut them in half, whatever, we measured it, you tape the blind to the pan disruptor and you go up to the target you want to hit, it's dead on where you're aiming. I've never.
When you do it with a blank round.
I'm sorry.
But that's the case when you use a blank round. What I'm wondering is, does the accuracy change when you put a live round in? And then you have two different situations. One is if you have a, sorry, I'm just gonna use the shorthand. If you have a robot with a shotgun and it's not accurate, the impact onto if you were to fire a live round and it were not to go where you were aiming it. And then the other situation is if you have a robot with a shotgun and it is accurate, and both of these are, they're different situations.
Well, we never.
Yeah, sure. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. We've never used a live round. We've always just used water. So we're utilizing the water. And so you basically fill the pan disruptor with water. So again, we've used blinds for measurement to give us the 18-inch rule. You have a green light, I believe, and a red light laser. So to answer the question of how accurate it be with a live round, I can't answer that question since we've never utilized it. We've also never utilized it from greater distances, I believe, than the 18 inches in training.
So question, how long is the, I don't know, I guess I presume there is some sort of barrel on this that's focusing the water from the, how long is that barrel?
I want to say it's maybe about 18 inches or 2 feet. I can't remember.
Okay, so so I mean that's relative to like a shotgun barrel. That would be a relatively not a very long shotgun barrel, but it would be an average length shotgun barrel. The fact that you're aiming it with a robot, which may have some, may not be the most effective way to. The image of robot with a shotgun, Jennifer, was just kind of amazing. Glad we could all get that in our heads tonight. But yeah, so I mean, presumably it would be at least somewhat accurate with a barrel length that long, right? But yeah, this feels like there definitely should be a, there must be higher approval than potentially, because I can only assume that if you have a circumstance where you have a barricaded individual who you cannot reach through any other means, you have probably set up a perimeter. You are doing all of the things you need to do to sort of take the time, attempt negotiation, and so forth. Presumably, this is an event that is. I mean, also, if you're using a robot, you will have had significant amount of time to bring that robot in, set it up, bring it into place. Presumably, you would have time to get a higher authority than just the incident commander, right? So maybe if it is a thing that is, I mean, presumably this is incredibly unlikely that we can put in sort of that it should only, like, live rounds should not be used in the pan disruptor. unless under very sort of like unusual exigent circumstances, and that must be given approval by, I don't know, how far up do we want to go up the chain of command to get this approval?
What is the authorization for when a sniper can fire?
I think that really depends, obviously, right? Depending on what threat is assessed, depending what is happening, is a person coming out and actively shooting.
I'm not asking about the situation. I'm asking about the rank, the command structure authorization. What is the level for that?
That comes from the actual incident commander who's on scene. So, but I think everyone kind of gets, and I think Deputy Chief, Assistant Chief Allison kind of explained it. So we all think sometimes, who's the incident commander? It's always going to be the lieutenant and the captain, but it's technically whoever is on scene first is the sergeant. But I think, as Assistant Chief Allison explained, things develop, things take time, isolation, containment, negotiation. When you have a watch commander on scene, the watch commander is technically the incident commander, tactical commander, until he delegates or she delegates duties on scene. So it comes from the actual incident commander, and depending who the highest ranking person that arrives on scene and places him or herself as the person in charge. Go ahead.
Yeah, so for situation awareness, the incident commander responsibility, one of those does include issuing appropriate fire control orders or rules or engagements. So that is an incident commander responsibility for like the SWAT team. Absent threats to their own safety, but if the incident commander decides that the sniper team is going to actively engage this person, then and give what's called a green light, then that is the incident commander. I don't know about the idea of saying that person has to be at the rank of captain or deputy chief. I would hesitate against saying like assistant chief or chief of police, just because it's going to be really hard to get a hold of them all the time. Deputy chiefs should be easier to get a hold of, with the robot, by the time the robot's getting out there. And one of these things, I think definitely a captain of police is going to be available. And there are 11 of those that are authorized, I think, authorized positions within the department. So that's a very finite list.
So what about watch commander?
Yeah, so the watch commander, that is the lieutenant of police or acting lieutenant. So there are, I think, close to 30 of those positions authorized at the police department, with varying levels of experience and tactical ability. I'm hearing kind of a reticence from this group, which I think we probably share, around having the responsibility devolve down to that level.
So shall we say captain?
That would probably be my recommendation. If we were going to say captain of police, I think that does, and Chief Allison or any of the other officers, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that provides a good balance of finding an available person, even at, because these things always seem to happen at the time, on the holidays or late at night when it's hard to get a hold of someone. But also with a level of responsibility that person has gone through several levels of review and understands their responsibilities both to the community, the department, and the officers.
Erickson?
Yeah, I feel like my main my concern on this is that I don't want it to become like a trend, like, oh, that any equipment, right, whether it's a robot, an aerial system, that we will attach a weapon system that could actually kill somebody. And that's what I would want to prevent, given that there are a lot of policies that we already went over, and that I keep hearing the same thing of like, well, we may need it for a circumstance, right? And I think just for people's safety and like just to sleep better at night, that, hey, not everything has a weapon attached to it, you know? So I think that's where my concern is coming from, of like not just giving the authorized use of, hey, we'll put this weapon in unfortunate situation, you know, and
I'm gonna take a moment and make some suggestions and give you some reasons, give you all some reasons for it. I think I would take the suggestion of Captain of Police for authorization for such a use. This particular policy requires a Lieutenant of Police generally for authorization of the robot. That would be a higher level. In situations where someone who is not a lieutenant, but of a lower rank does authorize the use, it does specify that authorization by command level shall be sought as soon as reasonably practical. I do agree that it should be subject to K3 and lethal force because it is essentially lethal force. But I also understand that, you know, frankly, it's a lot easier to just pull out a rifle or a gun and shoot somebody than it is to put a live round into this thing. But I think we are all concerned about the dystopian sort of universe where a robot sneaks into our room and shoots us, which I know is not the intention, but certainly is a scary thought and where everyone's mind goes to. So captain level authorization, K3 lethal force, justification, and specifically we had some language in our TB for flashbangs about the use of flashbangs in exigent circumstances, specifically for the preservation of life. And I would add to that that third qualifier of preservation of life for the use of that.
Okay.
Thoughts?
That works for me. You know, yeah, yes, we're all concerned that when the robots take over, we want to make sure they're not already armed. But all kidding aside, I hear what Erickson is saying, and it is a slippery slope to say like we are putting because the rest of these things could be used as weapons, but are less than lethal. Whereas in this situation, we are really talking about the authorization of a lethal weapon on a remote drone or robot, which is kind of a scary idea. But I also accept that if you have a situation where a person has you have a risk of losing life, maybe people have already died, like in Houston, and there's no other way to access this person, because yes, if you could utilize a sniper, that would be both easier and preferable and probably a lot safer for everyone involved. But so it feels like this would be a situation that we likely are never going to see, and I think that we want to sort of really make this language strong enough that it suggests that we don't ever expect such a thing to happen. But God forbid something does happen where this is the only option. It feels like, much as I hate to say it, robot with a shotgun is maybe our only hope. Bonkers. But yeah, I agree with Jesse that if we can just make this language strong enough to suggest that this is basically never an option except for in like the most unusual circumstances, and to preserve life, I can live with it.
I'm gonna work on
and
that
that every
language.
resource has been exhausted.
I'm gonna work on that language and send it to you, GQ.
Are we thinking under, I'll let you do it, under prohibited usage then, or somewhere else we add it? Or authorized usages?
I
me
would
think.
suggest it be in prohibited use with the exception, because that I think satisfies kind of what Commissioner Jordan was saying, of where we are not expecting this to happen, except in this kind of what I would suggest.
Yeah. So that sounds right to me also.
All right, I think the way I'm gonna write it is I'm gonna have a section, a descriptive section in the detachable tools, and then I'm going to refer it down to prohibited use and guidelines with those authorizations and limitations.
I think that's about it then, unless we're missing something else. I think that was the biggest, obviously, topic was the detachable tools and anything else we're missing or no?
I changed something in prohibited use, and I just want to be clear, or want to be transparent about doing so. Down, but prohibited use. It tracks, it's section B, 2B, and it tracks the UAS policy. Of instead, I took out the language that said not related to an authorized operation. Conducting surveillance, period.
Yep.
Just want to make sure that that's clear and that we're on the same page about that. Okay. With that, with those changes, specifically about the live round and the pan disruptor, how does this ad hoc feel about this policy submission to council, to commission?
I will wait and see what that language is, but I have reservations about anything that isn't a full prohibition. Basically what Erickson was saying earlier about how this is, this isn't just about the pan disruptor on the robot. It's about a shift in how the department is approaching its use of weapons. And given the time and that we haven't yet looked at the impact report, I will wait and look at the language, but hope that we might have further discussion tomorrow.
Others?
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the impact report, I guess. I think I'm in favor of moving forward with this, but with the caveat that, of course, in the commission meeting, all ad hoc members are should feel free to express their feelings about a particular piece of language or a particular item and share that with the rest of the commissioners. So I would encourage you, if you have reservations, share them tomorrow, and we can discuss it then.
Last call?
I don't have any glaring reservations around this particular policy. The only thing that I was also thinking about, and you've got it pulled up here, Lieutenant DQ, is under the prohibited use, item 3, and it was targeting individuals based on their characteristics, etc. And I remember Mr. Amaya mentioning something around like gangs, and I can't remember the full context, but I was wondering if we should expand that particular subsection C, so it's not targeting individual persons, but also maybe like groups of people.
Perhaps associations?
Yeah, based on like affiliations, so associations, whatever it may be. And Mr. Amaya, if you have additional comments on, I just remember you mentioning it in our last meeting, and I don't know that we actually addressed it, so I gave it a little bit of thought and figured it might be a good place to just expand, not just targeting persons, but also groups of people based on certain characteristics or affiliations.
Yes, thank you. Definitely this comes from a point in time of during the gang injunctions, just
Mhm.
because at some point we noticed that youth were being put on the list of that, and we're being, a lot of youth were being pushed out to schools like the ones which I teach at Resdale, Dewey, right? And a lot of times these groupings, just being in a group with people, would associate you with a given gang, even if they're just wearing colors. I'm thinking about kids that have like uniform, that might be in those groups, although that law Oakland was the first one to defeat. Like I still see and feel that presence of targeting groups of people, probably not but probably we don't hear about it, but a lot of times like there are groupings of people, whether they're in a motorcycle bike, whether they're just a group of youngsters doing what youngsters do, so there's always that fear. And I think, yeah, just stop and see, like, analyze the situation. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'm getting to your point, but yeah, just preventing that criminalization, you know.
Right. I think you are. And I also think it could possibly be a pretty easy fix if we just rephrased it to say like targeting a person or group of persons or people based on their characteristics, not so we can take out the word individual, such as, but not limited to, race, ethnicity, national origin, religion, disability, gender, clothing, tattoos, sexual orientation, and or perceived affiliation when not connected to.
Yes, thank you.
Does that work?
Oh, yes, it does.
Address that concern of yours.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Good.
Looks good. I'll probably copy this for the drone policy then.
Great. That was my only comment on this particular policy. Other than that, I'm okay with it moving forward.
Impact report.
While you're pulling up the impact report, one question I had was if every officer who's authorized to fly a drone is also authorized to deploy a robot?
Yes, every officer who is capable or authorized to fly a drone can deploy a robot, but not every person who's authorized to fly or deploy a robot can deploy a drone because they haven't gone through the right training yet. Or they're missing the FAA 107 certification, so we're really strict on that. So you have to be an ESU. So everyone who does the drones does the robot. There's a couple people and officers who do the robots that can't do the drone yet.
Okay, so you've got 14 people who can do robots and fewer than 14 who can do drone.
Correct. I don't have the exact number, but there's few.
Okay, thanks.
Going down, let's see. I think we talked about the initial cost already.
I had one question about the cost. I know you had told us for the drones that it takes 3 officers to each time the drone is deployed. how many officers are required each time a robot is deployed?
We don't have a requirement. We like to have two. So basically, it's one person who's doing the robot and at least another officer who's either covering them or looking at a distance, is saying, hey, try this, try this. So usually it's about two people.
Can that context be added to the for each proposed use section?
Yes.
Well, thanks.
I added on here for the anticipated costs, just our staffing. The fact, the type of coverage we have, but it might change during watch change. Because right now we're missing about 5 hours of full coverage. And I'm also listing on here that I plan to grow our team to about 20 officers, which will assist in coverage and in workload. So that's my goal for proposed usage. I think we have the estimated cost here. The impact on persons. I just kind of took the deployment of OC. Obviously, if we're going to be talking about deployment of the live round in, I can add that in here for the impact on persons. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Last time, I know just 2 days ago, we talked a little bit about the impact if someone's car has the window smashed or their tire slashed. Because that person, if the window is smashed, they're not going to be able to secure their vehicle. If the tire is slashed, they're not going to be able to move the vehicle, which means that they might not be able to move it for street sweeping or move it to some place where it can be legally parked. There's the time that's required to repair the vehicle, during which they're not going to be able to use it if the tire is slashed. Also the cost of whether they bear that cost, of if the city bears the cost, what that might look like. And then especially if a person is relying on that vehicle for housing, to sleep in, then and to live in, then that's also going to have an impact on their day-to-day and their day-to-day shelter needs.
I can say those are excellent points. I'd say the biggest things is, as far as utilizing the tire and the window punch, I don't see us just randomly deflating tires that are just not involved in the incident, if that makes sense. And then just leaving the car there after maybe we take somebody into custody. It most likely be towed and not left at the scene. But I do see the impact of, hey, now we have to tow the car, and now the person probably has to pay the tow fees to get out after the fact. Or if it's a house, obviously. So I see that. So I can add that on the impact, definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I hope though nobody thinks, and I'll make sure that we're just gonna break a window, take somebody in custody, and then leave the car there so that somebody else can vandalize it or burglarize it. But
just for semantics, if we're gonna add this section, then I think we should just change the title of it to impact on persons and property.
good call. The technical safeguards, I just add pretty much the speeds, the fact that it's low speeds decreases the possibility to injure persons and cause any type of damage to property. And then the utilization of the OC and the PAN disruptor having safety level switches and also having that extra safety check, similar to our training bulletin for specialty impact munitions. So I added those two things here for technical safeguards.
Safety check might be a procedural.
Okay. Good call. I think I just added the fact that without the usage of the robots, it puts the officers having to actually go there as opposed to using the robot.
I had a question about that. I feel like there's twice in this document where you say that the only alternative to using a robot is for an officer to place themselves in immediate danger. And that just felt a little bit sorry, I'm blanking on the word, having only two choices, right? Like it sounds like the only when you write that, it makes me think the only two choices are to deploy the robot or for the officer to like launch himself into directly into harm's way. But it feels like there are other alternatives beyond that. And this sentence makes it hard to imagine alternatives that aren't one or the other. And it also implies that without that, that not using a drone or a robot means that an officer would definitely be placing themselves into immediate danger.
No, I see what you're saying. I think I was trying to add the fact that we use the technology to put ourselves at a greater, safer distance. Without some of this stuff, we have to insert ourselves to that situation. So if you have an unknown location, unknown area, I can have a drone or a robot deployed. Without that, obviously there are more options. We do have Argus, we do have air support. We can make a phone call to someone who lives in the house to say, can you look outside the window? But sometimes we prefer not to because we don't want to put that person at risk. So I was trying to come up with some understanding that if we don't have this, then the only alternative sometimes is for us to actually walk back there to check something out.
Wait, everything you just said was great. Can you just write everything you just said in the last like 30 seconds down? Because those are all alternatives, including the like calling someone who's inside the house.
Okay. I forget sometimes I'm like thinking, but sometimes obviously we're involved with a lot of these situations, and sometimes I totally understand what you're saying. It might not be as clear when I'm writing it as opposed to like what are you actually trying to say here, DQ?
I'm gonna do a quick time check in a function and just a thought. This is a lot that's going into robots. And some discussion will be had tomorrow. The reason why we're doing this for Thursday for tomorrow is because there are some uses that remind me.
If you mount a weapon, then it falls under the local ordinance instead of AB 481.
Weapon being hand disruptor, puncture, but not OC canister or including OC canister.
I would say including OC canister.
Got it. Okay. All right, let's wrap up.
Just real quick, I did the same thing for our UAVs, just did a deployment log, specifying how many times we deployed it for each incident. So it was a total of 57 times so far in 2022. And then I explained, gave two situations on two incidents on how they were successful. I think I put beneficial, but good word choice, Jennifer. They were successful in directing suspects to exit surrender, and just explain how we utilize them as track records.
Can you add a non-training total?
A non-training total?
Right, the number of deployments minus the training. It's just hard for me to arithmetic 57 minus 18.
Okay, yeah, it'd be like what, 39 or something?
I just said it's hard.
Do you want me to add just
right under total, if you can add one more line that says total deployed outside of training. Because it's good that you've got total, adding one more line just to make it super easy on everyone to understand. Total deployed outside of training.
Got it.
Thank you. I kind of assume if I am struggling with an arithmetic that other people probably are too.
What was that, 39, I'm guessing?
That's why I became a police officer. Very little math.
Okay, 8:01. Thank you. We didn't, Lieutenant Fleming, I apologize. We did not get to mobile command vehicles, even though I asked Lieutenant Turner to bring you on. I apologize for that. We will take up. I think we should take up mobile command vehicles on Monday, if that's all right, and Lieutenant Fleming is available. I think that we have some work to do tonight and to get stuff together for commission meeting tomorrow. Lieutenant Turner?
Yeah, just sorry, just for process, I don't or didn't see that that Bonnie replied to the chief of staff, but in terms of getting the updated documents to the commission and for supplementals, will that be, just so we don't duplicate work, is that gonna be you or me? I could do it because I know you have a day job. This is my-
I think it's you for Brown Act purposes.
Got it.
And we should be okay because they are agendized.
Okay, all right, so I will get those over as soon as we have future. So yeah, any changes, please, that anyone's making here, just note in the email when you set it out, hey, this is the final one to include in the agenda. I will send it to the chief of staff, and then they will go about their process of adding it as a supplemental for tomorrow's agenda.
And sometimes I would note that for other commissioners, it might help if you give them a heads up tonight that updated policies are coming tomorrow.
Okay,
So they know to look for it and have some time if they do to review.
got it.
Thank you all so much. I try very much not to keep us very much past 8. Anything else on this particular impact? I'm sorry, Jennifer.
Sorry, for Monday, we are doing mobile command vehicles. Are we doing LRAD?
We were very likely doing LRAD, but mobile command vehicles for sure.
And then check in on breaching?
Check in on breaching and anything that carries over from tomorrow. If everyone could do me a favor and also take one last look at the UAS policy, the drone policy. Because that will be on tomorrow, and I thought we were close.
Yeah, the biggest thing was the surveillance section. I can add the section about not targeting specific people associated with that engine and Eric had, if that's cool. So I'll change that up. And I think I added one more section similar to the robots, and that was it. So I'll make them changes.
I can't promise that you'll be up first, EQ.
I know I won't. Well, what's tomorrow? Just drones, or are we doing robot? Or are we not doing robots tomorrow?
We're gonna have we are doing robots. We'll
Okay.
have had a discussion about robots, drones. LRAD will be presented, but we have more work to do. We don't have mobile command. We don't have breaching. And flashbangs. That's what we got tomorrow. Okay. Thank you all so much. See you all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.